Thank you, folks. It's a pleasure to be here. It's actually my first time attending. I think someone else last year from my organization actually presented last time. And I guess what we'd like to talk about today is with the theme and spirit that showed up for this year's Cybersec, which was securing digital with DNA. And I think what resonated very well with that was earlier this year, corporate-wide, we did publish a Sustainable Future report. And in there was some very many important pages around digital responsibility. And I think what I wanted to talk about was some of our point of views and thoughts in those areas. And hopefully we can relay some of those with the folks that are attending here. So to give you some background on some of the trends that we've been looking at, I'm sure many of you have looked at these trends. We are looking at where we're heading in 2030. And where we're seeing it is there will be many, many devices that will get connected to the world. We've seen instances where things are called the Internet of Everything. And we anticipate, given those numbers, about 100+ billion devices will get connected. And every individual user will be using roughly 15 devices for their daily interaction. And out of those, there are a couple of devices that we do recognize will be essential or mission critical. And as you can see, tens of millions of them will be mission critical or viewed as essential. In addition to that, we also see a growth in users that will stay connected and will interact with these devices. Approximately 7.5 billion people around the world will be interacting with these devices. And many of them, at least 2/3 when we look at some of these trends, will be in the mega cities that exist. And with the user base, along with the device base, what we'll be effectively seeing is lots and lots of data that will show up. And this data will be gathered, processed, utilized, and hopefully it's utilized for the good in a responsible manner. With these trends, academia, industry, as well as even at the national level, there have been some reports that have come out that are dear in heart, and we've referenced in understanding and even developing our own point of view. This is a report that came out, I believe, recently from Cybersecurity Futures, where if we do nothing, these are some of the scenarios that could occur. And many of these scenarios, the four scenarios that were described, are very extreme in some sense, but it does give us a good early warning of we should really act, and there should be a call to action tied to that. And one of those scenarios involves where quantum computing or quantum leap is involving. And it should be, instead of being restrictive and non-proliferated, there should be some more effort towards looking at it in an open manner and sharing it and doing it in a collaborative manner worldwide. With the introduction of more intelligence, there is less wiggle room for the individual. And as a result of that, in some instances, you'll see more accurate and non-humane activities. And with that scenario, I think the segue would be how can we make things more humane or help society as a whole? With some of the ironies we've seen with some of the initiatives, we've seen also two distinctive streams respond to where cybersecurity is heading, and that's painted in this scenario of Balor's revenge. And with that, if we can make it more unified and address those two extremes and bring them back to a normalized pendulum, I think that would be a good approach to go by. And then we've also seen scenarios where it's trust a certain body, and it's either insecurity versus full-fledged security in a form of surveillance. And we felt that how can we make this more balanced so that it can, again, be supportive of the open and humane and unified way of where things could go. Industry has also responded to that, and this is an earlier report that came out. It was published by Microsoft around the mid-2010s. And it also gave a perspective of where cybersecurity policy should go. And it gave us three distinct profiles of where things could go. One of them would be through, it could plateau, where there's local policies that are in place, However, they're not fully coordinated nor collaborative, and there are some local norms and local security postures as a result of that. So you will see a stable order, but as a result of that, it is still stalled, and there could be things that could be done better. We've also seen a scenario where this is the best case scenario where you would have a peak and everyone is connected, everyone is cooperative, and you're able to see a global security policy in place worldwide where you can effectively address many of the gaps in a more worldwide and global manner. And I guess the worst case scenario would be everyone is in a canyon and you're effectively deeply isolated and you're operating under a silo. So continuous collaboration between the industrial sector and the international and going cross-border is effectively a good way towards how we can foster collaboration in addressing cybersecurity. And I think this is the message that we gathered from these types of reports. Very near heart with Cybersec, we've also recognized that the ENISA has also come up with initiatives around what the priorities should be around cybersecurity. And they've obviously recognized that AI is really the new frontier to enable and hopefully help individuals as well as businesses. They've also recognized that different forms of new emerging computing, such as in quantum technology, will start being disruptors, and there would need to be security controls as well as security capabilities and technologies in place to address those needs. And given that we're going digital more, digital infrastructures that are operated would need some form of cybersecurity control to go about addressing our needs and making sure that it is an infrastructure that can be operated in a safe and secure manner. And cybercrime obviously will grow, and addressing that in a way that looks at investigation throughout the process and responding to those issues is definitely an important element. And last but not least, the privacy threat is here and very dear in heart, and we should be able to look at how we can preserve a privacy of an individual. So with all these trends that we've seen, we've also developed our own point of view. And it has resulted in the report that I was referring to, A Sustainable Future. And while it's in Korean, I think the effective banner that we first see is we are trying to lay out the future that's promising. And one of the major items that we emphasize is we would like to use technology for the good. And one way of addressing that is to act responsibly when it comes to digital. And for the key pillars that we focus around, which is 5G, AI, IoT, and data, these represent our paths that we would like to secure in terms of connectivity, intelligence, and data. I'll cover these three topics and just give overviews, but I think it would be helpful in relay why we believe this is the case for these three pillars. So connectivity-wise, we acknowledge that there is next-generation comms with the emergence of 5G and onwards. And to make this infrastructure efficient and secure, we need to look at the individual devices and ensure that there's layered defense in terms of platform security. And we've paid extra attention towards that in terms of some of the technologies and brands we have for Samsung Knox and what exists in Tizen itself. And once we've developed device security, we do acknowledge that it would be extended upon, because these are all connected through a very large network in a distributed manner, the importance of endpoint security. And with the emergence of 5G, understanding how we secure and monitor the endpoints that are all citizens that are part of the network, how we go about doing that is important. And ultimately, as you put these pieces together, this will help us form an end-to-end security posture in the overall ecosystem that we operate under, and ultimately allow us to have new opportunities in terms of services while addressing the threats that occur and ensuring that we are acting as good corporate citizens and build an ability to build trust. Intelligence-wise, I think our point of view at the end of the day has been we know that AI is here to stay. We also know that AI plays a critical role even for safety and mission-critical and essential services. even in the cybersecurity and security sector, we know AI is a key element that we leverage to also improve our security posture and security measures. We, however, also acknowledge on the flip side that there is some issues and concerns that can be raised about AI on its own, and there needs to be heightened awareness in terms of how to address some of the vulnerabilities, such as adversarial AIs that occur, as well as the ability to figure out how we can secure the AI assets that exist in an AI platform, service, or in a data store on its own. And together with all this vision, we believe this can be utilized as a way of building an ethical and trustworthy AI technology. Last but not least, data-wise, we believe that there is an exasperate need for having governance for data on its own, and figuring that out and making sure that that's very well compliant and regulated. And on the other side, for the user itself, it needs to be usable, as well as the usability versus security needs to be carefully balanced out. And as enterprises start using these data elements for the right purpose and for the good, we believe it needs to be as transparent as possible to the individuals that have contributed to creating that data. And with these pillars, we believe this will result in some a form of data literacy that will occur, and hopefully people can become a lot smarter about how to deal and manage with data, as well as enterprises when enterprises use that information as a whole. So with that digital responsibility, we believe, as we started with some of the scenarios, this can be a good segue towards building trust. We've had some very good exercises this year where we've seen responsible digitization in practice. Our Knox technology helped fuel elections in Latin America, and it was definitely a very good exercise in understanding how digitized components and technology can help in elections. We host annual events around Samsung Security Tech Forums. This was our third time that we had this event, where our major message that we wanted to relay was trust with Samsung. And at the end of the day, we wanted that to be used as a vehicle in showing, okay, this is how we responsibly digitize, and this is how we overlay our security controls on top of that. And as we speak this week, I believe I can't recall what the time difference would be, but we are having a Samsung Developer Conference 2019 where we have a capture the flag hacking session that allows the security awareness for regular developers and people participating in the conference to understand what security means and how we can act responsibly towards that. And I think I'd like to wrap up finally with sharing this announcement that we recently reached. I think it's another good example of how we're building trust through responsible digitization, where we have a cybersecurity agreement with the Poland government, especially the Ministry of Digital Affairs. And Samsung Electronics Poland has joined the Cybersecurity Cooperation Program. And it's truly a partnership with the private sector and the public sector. And we believe it'll allow us to help increase the cybersecurity posture here locally. And we can definitely learn from those exercises and improve our cybersecurity as a whole. The areas that are covered are a variety, as you can see, in information, education, training, and knowledge sharing, as well as test and certification. And hopefully this is a good start towards continuously acting as a good corporate citizen and being a responsible contributor to digitization. Okay, that's what I wanted to talk about.